Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. Today, we're going to talk about resilience and self-compassion. And why is that important? And what is that going to help me do in my life? Well, before we even get to that, I just want to introduce myself and my profession and what we do for a living as music therapists. So my name is Ashley Lewis. I am a music therapist. If you haven't heard of what that is, so music therapy is a health-based profession. We are all board certified professionals. We design music interventions that help people of all ages and abilities reach non-musical goals. So for instance, if you're in a hospital setting and you're experiencing a lot of pain, maybe you'll call a music therapist in. They'll help you to decrease some of that pain, increase some of your relaxation, give you some therapeutic talk, try to normalize the environment for you a little bit and just make your stay a lot more comfortable. And therefore, if your well-being and your mental health is in a good space, more than likely your physical health will be in a good space, and maybe you'll get out of that hospital a little bit faster. So today, the idea is that music therapy can be used in any setting for any population. Today, I want to bring music therapy to anybody watching, to anybody who needs just a little bit extra love, just a little bit extra kindness. We have all been through so very much this year. COVID has really done a number on everybody. I don't know one person, not one person, who hasn't been affected in some way by this pandemic and by all of the social justice and political movements that we've seen in this country. We have been through a lot. And you can go one of two ways. You can struggle through this phase in your life, or you can move through it. So today I want to talk a little bit about thinking about terms of being in cycles of resilience and compassion, cycles of stress and anxiety, because we aren't ever just stuck in one place. Just because we feel something one day doesn't mean we're going to feel that way forever. So let's begin. And I just want to talk a little bit about good morning, Miss Lily. Good morning, Miss Bethany. It's so nice to see people that I know and love and respect so much. Hopefully we can all get something out of this discussion today. So for all of you who are listening, I want you to go ahead. I want you to think about a symbol of resilience. And when I talk about resilience, what does that mean to you? So for instance, my symbol of resilience, I have a moonstone that I use, and it represents love. It represents self-love. It was a gift given to me out of love. And every time I feel down or not strong or maybe a little bit disengaged with my life, I try to use that as a symbol of come back to your center, come back to your center. So what I want everybody to do right now, write it down. It can be a drawing. It can be words. It could be a small poem. And we're going to come back to that at the end of the presentation. But the idea is that it's sacred and it's personal to you. That's the most important thing. There is no right or wrong answer. When we're talking about resilience and self-compassion, there really is no right or wrong way to do it. It's just how you feel in that moment. Yes, Alice, we have to move through it. We do have to move through it. So as you're thinking about that, I want you to think about what is resilience. Now, we've all had to really dig deep. We had to dig deep this year for resilience in many ways. So many people had so many issues and so many obstacles to overcome. How do you move through that? So let's talk about what resilience is. There's so many definitions. There's so many things that work for people, but here are the main ones that I have found that work with clients, that work with myself, and that just seem to work for the general population. One of those things is the ability to bounce back. I know a lot of people have gotten disappointed. Maybe you didn't get that job. Maybe you didn't get that call back. Maybe a friend decided, hey, we're not going to be friends anymore. Maybe you lost your job. Maybe your money isn't really where you need it to be financially. You're financially unstable. How do you bounce back from that? Another way to be resilient is to pick yourself up. Not beat yourself up. And for some people, that is the very thing you want to do, is to directly just start to beat yourself up. But how do you not do that? Yes, we have such wonderful people on this call. Thank you, Josh. So here's one of the biggest things I noticed: the ability to move through difficult times in a meaningful way. Recognizing stress, recognizing that it's here, recognizing, yes, I am in a state of stress. I am in a state of anxiety. I am in a state of depression. Being able to recognize it is step one. Then how do you move through it in a meaningful way? We're going to keep touching back on moving through it in a meaningful way, because we're not here to say that stress and anxiety is never going to exist. I'm not here to tell you there's a magic formula for you'll never feel this again. And if any music therapist or any regular therapist or any type of healer in some way, emotional healer, tells you that, oh, I've got the fix, they're lying to you. It's not possible. You are going to feel stressed. You are going to feel anxious. But we'll talk about why that's important also. How do we move through it meaningfully? Adapting to change. We've all had to do that a lot this year. We have all had to dig so deep and figure out, how am I going to run a company in a new way? How am I going to give services to somebody that I need to be in front of to see? How am I going to perform on a stage for a bunch of people in the same room with being a safe distance away? We've all had to do that. How do we respond to stress with self-care? And this is usually one of the first things that people neglect, is their self-care, the ability to come back to themselves, the ability to realize that I need something right now. And if I don't put the mask on myself first, how am I going to help that person next to me put theirs on? So does anybody agree with this? Does anybody have any other ideas of what resilience could be? Does anybody identify more with one of these resilient factors than another? And if you don't, that's great. And if you do, that's great too, because maybe if you don't, we'll help you figure out a way to identify with one of these. So let's keep going. Compassion. That's the other part of this cycle. Bethany says, agree 100%. Stress will always be with us, but that response is so important. Absolutely, Bethany. And that's the big takeaway here, guys. This isn't about erasing stress and anxiety. This is about how to move through it. So let's talk about compassion. This is a tough one for people, I think. We aren't primed to be compassionate to ourselves. Warm feeling of caring or concern for someone else, right? For someone else. That seems easy for most people. I can do it for someone else. Can I do it for myself? Kindness. Acceptance. Maybe people don't recognize acceptance as a form of compassion, but it absolutely is. Being able to accept someone, not despite a flaw, but because of it. You accept the whole. You are as good as you need to be right now. You are exactly what you need to be right now. Life has shaped you and brought you to this moment for such a specific purpose. And some people don't realize, oh, I'm still finding my purpose. I've talked with clients about, why did I get a second chance at life? Why wasn't I one to lose my life to COVID? Why am I still here after a horrible stroke? Maybe it's because you are exactly where you need to be right now, right here in this moment. You existing on this planet affects someone else. And being able to wrap your brain around that and really accept that you are good enough, you are enough right now, and you don't need to do anything more except exist. Love, obviously, love. One of the biggest forms of compassion. And here's what's so interesting about how the neurologic response to compassion, the neuroscience behind compassion, it can decrease the activity in your amygdala. And it activates the pleasure and reward system of your brain, those parts of your brain that light up and reinforce, this is good, this is good. So for those of you who aren't familiar, the amygdala is what secretes something called cortisol. And cortisol is a lovely little component based on stress. And when we're stressed, that cortisol is just pumping through our body. It pumps through our body, and then it manifests itself through our body in many different ways, either our behavior, our emotional state, our thought pattern, how we interact with other people. So imagine being able to literally get inside of your brain because you're using one of these and saying, nope, I'm going to accept this moment. I'm going to be kind to myself. We are now actually retraining our brain to think differently. And now we're not pumping cortisol. Now we're pumping dopamine and serotonin and all those yummy, delicious neurotransmitters that our brain needs to function in a happy, healthy way. And now our body is radiating that. And we're now radiating that out into the universe. So this is something not only is maybe an emotional concept, but there is neuroscience behind it. If you need that for those left brainers who need that kind of confirmation. Yep. Good morning, Shiri. Good to see you. So let's talk about why. Why is this a cycle, and how can you feed this? So when we think of a cycle, we think of one moving into the other and going into the other and going into the other. And it moves around and around and around. There is no up or down. It is all a spectrum of feeling, right? And it goes one to the one to the one. So compassion breeds resilience, and resilience breeds compassion, and so on and so forth. How do you feed that? Good morning. Good morning, Nathaniel. So here are some ways to feed this resilience and compassion cycle. Mindfulness. Now, I know that concept may seem a little bit hippy-dippy to some people. Mindfulness, okay, sure, I'm not going to sit and meditate and do all these things. And for the people that do it, love it, wonderful, yay, keep doing it. For the people who don't, maybe more of a cerebral grasp on mindfulness, there's a way to root yourself into the present, okay? And the easiest way in, believe it or not, is through your senses. So what are things that you can see? Can you name the things around you that you see? Name 5 things you can see. Name 4 things you can feel. Touch. Get rooted into where you are. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel the shirt on your back. Feel the hair on your head resting on your back. Feel this chair, the sturdiness of the chair. What are 3 things you can hear? Can you hear the hum of your AC? Can you hear that beautiful music playlist that's meant to go ahead and ISO principle you down to a calm state? Can you hear somebody singing? Can you hear your heart beating? Can you smell the coffee brewing, or the fresh air, or the candle you just lit? Can you taste the coffee that you just drank, like I'm going to do right now? Yep. Rooting into the moment. Being present. When you live in the future and you're constantly worried about the future and you're not present, you're going to live in a state of anxiety. It is what it is. When you live in the past and you ruminate and it's disturbing, you're going to live in a state of depression. The only true peace is in this present moment. And when you feel like you're not rooted, get rooted, use your senses. And I'll talk about why music is so wonderful for doing that too, because it really does bring you right to this moment. Gratitude, a gratitude journal. What are you grateful for? Things that you may not see as something to be grateful for. I'm grateful for my cup of coffee. I'm grateful I have 3 best friends that I can call when I need something. I'm grateful that I have a mom that I can go and hang out with when I need to. Things that you're grateful for, just writing it down, and the act of that sensory act of putting that pen in your hand and writing it on paper. It doesn't have to be a long speech. It doesn't have to be paragraphs or your novel. It can just be one thing, just one thing. You know how Peter Pan had to find that happy thought? It's just that one happy thought. What is it for you? Kindness to yourself and others about what you can accomplish. We as Americans may not be well versed in what can I actually do, because we're always pushing and pushing and pushing. Sometimes, yes, maybe it is helpful, but sometimes it's really important to say, I accept where I'm at. Calling back that self-acceptance. I accept where I'm at. Not only do I accept it, but I honor it. And pushing beyond this won't be honoring where I'm at and what I need right now. What can you accomplish? In therapy, we set goals for our clients and our patients, and we call them SMART goals. Goals that are achievable. They're specific. They're measurable. They're achievable. They're realistic, and they're time-bound. What is your SMART goal? Are you setting goals for yourself? Patience. Because to do all of these things, guess what? You need a big old dose of patience. And I'll tell you, it's been a very long test of patience for all of us. For a year, we've all had to be very patient. Yes, we forget to be kinder. Yes, absolutely, Lily. These are great. I definitely want to start a gratitude journal. Wonderful. I love that you guys are telling me these things, because this is important to know. Mind you, not every single one of these is going to stick out to people, but the ones that do, take something from it. Self-care. Yes, it is important to have you time. It has become cliche in our society to say, oh, have you done your you time? Are you self-caring? But yes, it is important. You need your brain to have a rest point. Do you need to go watch Netflix on the couch? Do you need to just sit with your tea and watch the sun? Do you need to go and read a book? Do you need to make your favorite meal? It's whatever works for you. Only you can tell. It's just because my formula is I'm going to pour some tea, I'm going to light my candle, I'm going to put on my blanket, watch my Netflix, doesn't mean that's going to work for everybody else. You have to experiment, right? Just like any good scientist would, what's working, what's not working. In case it's useful to anyone, I schedule self-care on the Google Calendar. It's nerdy. Hey, you know what? Why not? What a great idea Bethany just had, to make sure that you are not neglecting yourself. This is all part of filling that compassion cycle. All of it. Letting go of expectations. Guys, I don't mean letting your work slip. I don't mean not fighting for something that you want. I don't mean any of that. I mean letting go of the control of what the outcome is. Did you do the work? Did you prepare? Did you do everything you could do to make sure that audition knocked their socks off? Yeah? Okay. Can you control that outcome? No. The things that you can control right in the palm, right in the center of your palm, and anything outside of that, any extraneous environmental variables, honey, that is just going to cause you stress, and you're going to get right into that stress and anxiety cycle, because now we're talking about things we cannot control. And support systems. Oh, this is a big one. This is a big one. We are so primed, especially in this country, to think we don't need to ask for help. When you ask for help, you're admitting you're weak. When you ask for help, you're admitting you don't know. When you ask for help, you're showing a chink in the armor. How about the fact that first-year medical students, and I won't share the program because this may be their thing they want to keep separate or secret, won't allow their doctors, their residents who are training under attending physicians, will not allow them to use patient charts going into those patient rooms. They're not allowed to ask any questions about their disease. They're not allowed to ask any questions about symptoms, nothing. The only thing they're allowed to ask their patients, week 1 of getting to know how are we going to treat these patients, are, how is your support system? Did you call anybody today? Is anybody coming to visit you later? Do you have somebody you're going home with after you get discharged? Because believe it or not, these support systems do affect our well-being. We are social creatures. If nothing else, this pandemic has proven that time and time again. We are social. We need each other. We are only as strong as our weakest link. And if you're the only link, how strong can you actually be? It's important. I myself am learning. How do you let people in? It's not easy. But you got to be honest. You got to be authentic. You got to be true to yourself. And that's the way you build trust. The more you are authentic to yourself, you build that trust. So after we talked about all of these things, there's another cycle that we go to all the time. And it's called the stress and anxiety cycle. And we move through just like a figure eight. I like to kind of picture it in my head. Are we in stress and anxiety? How do we feed it? Now, I'm not telling you that sometimes stress and anxiety can't be a good thing, okay? Because first of all, there are no bad emotions. There is no emotion in the human spectrum of emotion that is a negative emotion. When you feel angry, you feel angry. When you're sad, you feel sad. No emotion will kill you. No emotion will hurt you. They will alert you to something that may need your attention. Your stress and anxiety may let you know, hey, this is slipping. You may want to get on this. It may help to motivate you, but it's how you move through it meaningfully. Do you let it destroy you? Do you let it make you bitter? Do you let it make you sad? Do you let it feel like you're so alone? I'll never meet that person. I'll never book that part. I'll be alone forever. I don't have a friend. Do you let it feed in a negative way off of you? How do you do that? How are we feeding that stress and anxiety cycle? Whoa, if I'm the only link. Alice, exactly. How do we feed it? Well, here's some ways. We feed it through shame. And that one we keep a lot under wraps. And a lot of people talk about things they're ashamed of, right? And we keep it all in here, locked up tight in a lockbox. Nobody can get to it. Judgment. How judgment itself goes against the very idea of being compassionate. Compassionate means that I've accepted where I'm at. Compassionate means that I'm okay with myself. Compassionate means that I'm okay with other people around me. When I start to judge it, what's that really about? What's really hurting inside of you? What's really bothering you? And you can have those conversations with yourself. I'm judging this really hard right now. Why? What's going on with me? Criticism. That's a big one. Where is the line between when criticism is constructive and then it becomes damaging? There is a line between I'm criticizing this to make it better, to make sure it thrives, to elevate everyone around me. And then there becomes a point where it becomes too much and too big and too dark. And now we're not doing that. We're doing the very opposite. We're disempowering. We're negatively affecting. We're hurting. And we can see that, and I can make all the transfers I want into social justice and things that we see around us. But criticism is definitely a way to stick and live into that stress and anxiety cycle when it's not constructive anymore. Emotion will not kill you. Emotion will not hurt you. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, Bethany, it won't. Fear. Ooh, that's a big one. That is a big one. And guess what, guys? I'm really guilty of that one. Fear. Fear of the unknown. Again, fear of the unknown is fear of the future because I'm not living presently right now. I'm only worried about what's going to happen in the future. Guess what? Get rid of that fear. The only true peace is in the present. The only true peace is in this moment with me and you and here. No phones, no cell phones. We're connecting. We're open. We're honest. We're authentic. That's going to go ahead and negate that fear, but we'll get more into that in a minute. Guilt. Guilt. I want to talk about guilt for a minute. I talk about guilt with my clients a lot. Guilt is a very tricky little one. It's tricky, okay? Because sometimes you can feel guilty because you've done something wrong. I'm going to repeat that. We feel guilt when we've done something wrong. Then there's another side of guilt. We haven't done anything wrong, but we feel guilty for how that other person now feels. So if I've said or done something not out of being harsh or mean or trying to disparage or break down, and that person now feels bad, or that person says, oh, I can't believe you said that. And now I take it on. Oh, I feel so guilty. Did you do something wrong? You guys got to check yourself. We all have to check ourselves. Ask yourself, I'm feeling guilty right now. Did I do something wrong? If the answer is yes, okay, then you're feeling guilty about something and maybe you want to go and fix that. Maybe you need to look at that. If the answer is no, I didn't do anything wrong, then you got to check where that guilt is coming from. What is that connected to? How is it serving me to hold it? Avoidance. The only true peace is the present. Absolutely. Avoidance. That's a big one. Because you know why it's a big one? It's so easy. It's so easy to avoid. It's so easy to avoid applying for that really big position in that job. It's so easy to avoid, I'm not going to ask that person out because I don't really know if they want to go out with me. It's so easy to avoid going after one of the biggest dreams you've ever had because it requires work. And you know what that leads to? Stress and anxiety because you're not doing the thing you want to do. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Hockey reference. If you're avoiding it, you need to look at that. I can't stress it enough. You need to look at that. Why are you avoiding it? What's holding you back? Is it fear? Is it one of these? Is it something on this list? More than likely. Neglecting self-care. Again, schedule it in that calendar. Because the less and less and less we give to ourselves, the less we have to give out to somebody else, right? So we've got all of these ways to feed. Do any of these resonate with you guys more so than another? Do you feel like one of these are true more for you than any of the others? Do you know somebody who only operates in this area? Shame for sure. Avoidance for me, Sarah. Absolutely. Yeah. Guilt. Ooh, that two-headed monster, that two-headed guilt monster. We got to check ourselves. What self-care includes. Yeah. Because again, it includes work. Right? You want to go to the gym, you want to build your muscles, you want to go to the gym and work out, you want to lose weight, you want to get on that diet, blah, blah, blah. I'm taking a very physical example right now. It requires your work. It's the same thing with the inner life, our mental health. It requires work. You don't just say, yep, I got it, and never think of it again. You do it every day. And consistency and consistency and consistency. There's a reason I take several sessions with a patient before I can see results. It's not one time. You got to feed your cycle. And if it's just one thing that you can do, just one thing every day, how could that affect other things? So let's keep going. So here's the idea. How do we move through it? We understand what the cycles are. We understand how to keep ourselves in the cycle. But what happens when we're stuck in something that we have to get unstuck into another thing? So here's the idea. If nothing else, this is the most important information I can leave you guys with today. Acknowledge your feelings. We are not taught how to identify and express an emotion on a daily basis, are we? None of us are. None of us. And the more I do this work, and the more I talk with people, and the more I talk with friends and family and blah, 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 and the circle gets bigger, I realize that we are not given the skill set on how to deal with our emotions, how to deal with ourselves. So you've got to acknowledge it. What am I feeling right now? I'm uncomfortable. It's not going to kill me. No feelings and emotions are going to be damaging, but it's the way that I behave as a result. So in cognitive behavioral therapy, we talk about the event happening first, The event kicks off a thought. The thought then kicks off a feeling. A feeling then kicks off a behavior. And now you're out into the world translating whatever that negative, potentially negative behavior is. And now it's a cycle. Now you're stuck. So acknowledge that feeling. Hey, I'm feeling angry right now. Great. Anger's tricky though. Anger is like an armor we wear. It's good to feel angry. Angry feels good because we feel like we're right and everyone else is wrong. Angry is, I did something good, you did something bad. But you know what? I challenge every one of you the next time you're feeling angry. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to lift up the rock and I want you to really look at what's underneath. Yeah, I'm angry right now because you know why? Because I feel insecure. I'm angry because I'm sad. I lost my dad to COVID. Not me, but somebody I know did. And the anger is so obvious in this person. But it's keeping that sadness in. I'm angry because I'm afraid. I'm so afraid that I want to do this thing, but I can't do this thing, and I'm so mad at myself. And you got to talk through it. You have to acknowledge the thing for the thing to get better. If you keep pushing it down, it's just going to manifest itself in other ways, and you're going to keep stuck in that stress and anxiety cycle. So please get used to naming it. I feel anxious. I feel stressed. I feel happy. The happy ones are easy to acknowledge, right? We all know when we're happy. We all know when we're having fun. We all know when we feel joy. We have all the comfort in the world expressing it. I need you all to get brave with me and start acknowledging and getting comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. Because I'm going to stress it again. It's not going to kill you. Emotions are not bad. Self-acceptance. By radically accepting our situation, by radically accepting where we are, by saying, yep, I'm not supposed to be anywhere else. We freed ourselves. We've taken back our power. Because now we can get things done. I'm rooted, I'm happy, I'm ready. I'm not thinking about where I need to be because living in anxiety is living in the future. I'm not sitting and thinking about all the things that I should have done differently and how I miss this person and how I wish this relationship was still here and I wish I still had this job and I wish I still lived in this place. I'm not going to live in the past and be depressed. You know why? I'm going to live right here in the middle, in the present, in the moment where I'm at. I have accepted it. It is not helpful to keep going both ways in the timeline. The only thing that's going to help you the most is sitting right here in the middle. Patience. Patience, because we know we can't acknowledge all these other things unless we have the patience to do it. And we don't have to, we take it step by step. I talk with my clients about moving things in stepwise order. Are you going to get to 0 and 100? Are you automatically going to become CEO of your company day one? Are you automatically going to overcome your cancer diagnosis on day one? Are you automatically going to fall in love with somebody you're on a date the minute you sit down? Nope. But you're going to take it one step at a time, one day at a time. And I've had conversations about this stepwise day at a time, take it one day at a time thing. It's not fun. It's not fun, but it's discipline. And if we're looking at our major outcome and we're looking at our greater good and our super objective, it becomes a really important part. Have a patience accountability partner. Have somebody to talk to every day. Because as soon as you get through day one, guess what? You're going to be at day 5 before you know it. Patience. Not being so hard on yourself. Sometimes it's just the way you talk to yourself. Sometimes it's just that self-talk. How am I claiming this right now? Why am I so guilty for what have I done something wrong? Or was I just doing my job the way I'm supposed to do my job? And the outcome is X, Y, and Z. Did I not know this thing before I made this decision? And then maybe it's affected my coworkers and colleagues in a way? No? Okay. I need to put the guilt away. That's not mine. I can't own it. You can't own everything. You had to piece through. You acknowledge your feeling. What's my stuff? What's somebody else's stuff? Right? And self-care. I'm going to come back to that one always. Self-care. Shifting your focus. This is a big one. I use this in DBT skills that I teach clients. Shifting your focus away. When you are highly stressed, everybody, listen to me on this one. This is an important one. When your emotional arousal is here, sometimes what you need to do is you need to put the phone down. You need to call it on the conversation. You need to take a pause. You need to walk away and do anything else in the world that will distract you. Now, as a music therapist, obviously, I'm going to give you music tools and coping skills to use. I'm going to help you build playlists that will bring you from anxious to calm, that will bring you from angry to happy. Because we're trying to invoke the senses. So if you got to shift your focus, how can you re-invoke your senses into something else? How can I play my piano so that I'm so in it that when I now come back, I'm not saying shift your focus and leave the problem and never come back to the problem. I'm saying shift your focus, because what's happening is your mind at that point is in trauma crisis mode. We're on a cycle. We're on a loop. We can't process anything in our brain. Neurologically, we're not going to be able to get that problem in there and solve it to the best of our level of executive functioning will allow, because we are in crisis mode. So take a breath. Take a breath. Take a minute. What are things that I can see? What are things that I can touch and hear and smell and taste? I'm going to go play this piano. I'm going to go watch that show. I'm going to go talk. I'm going to go call my best friend. I'm going to go have a cup of coffee. I'm going to walk outside. I know so many people that are really good at this, but this is just such an important takeaway. Shift your focus, guys, and then come back. Sleep on it is so cliche, but there's a reason for it. Get out of your own brain for a minute. Use what you can use. Use the tools around you. Know that when you give into something and you give into a cycle, then now I'm going to get caught. I'm going to get caught. I'm reinforcing this cycle and reinforcing things that are not helpful. Self-reflection. That's a big one. It goes with acknowledging feelings. It goes with radical self-acceptance. There's something that in AA, they use something called rigorous honesty. In order to battle your addiction, you need to be rigorously honest with yourself. You need to submit to any of your higher power. And if you don't have one, of a person or an idea or a group or something that's accountable that you can give yourself to, but you're going to be rigorously honest in that cycle of battling an addiction. And this is just an addiction of the highest level, of the highest emotional arousal, of one of the highest states of discomfort that you can live in. But if you're not being honest with yourself, if you're not checking in on that guilt, checking in on that anger, acknowledging what that means, it's going to be harder for you to move through. And mindfulness. Why? Because the only true peace is in the present. When we're being mindful, when our senses are rooted into this moment. Imagine going to dinner with a friend and not picking a phone up, but just being here with them the whole time. I bet you time passes and you don't even realize it. I bet you the world moves around you at a speed of light and you're like, wow, how did this happen so fast? Because you were present. I bet the happiest moments of your life, if you really are rigorously honest with yourself, is one where you are most present. A lot of that happens when we're children. On a holiday, on a birthday, on Christmas, however it is, you're rooted in the moment all the time. You don't have all this extraneous. That pure mind of that child lives for the moment, lives to play, lives to be here with you. So all of these things are strategies to move through. Does anybody feel like these are true for you? Does anybody feel like, I don't know. I don't really agree with this one because I'd love to talk about that. Or do you feel like something is really sticking out to you? Let's see what Kaylee's saying. Don't live in the stress of the past or anxiety of the future. The only peace is in the present. Make that my new mantra. Love. I love that. You love that too. I hope everybody got something from that. And if not, that's okay too. So let's talk about this. We're going to use these things to stick to our self-compassion, our resilience cycle. So what does that practice look like for us? Do you recall what your symbol of resilience is? And for those of you who joined a little bit later, I had asked in the beginning to write down or to create or to draw or to pick an object or to figure out an object you want to own. It's going to be your symbol of resilience because times are going to get tough and the cycle of stress and anxiety will be here again. I promise you, it's always going to be knocking at your door. But it's how you move through it meaningfully. Are you acknowledging yourself? Are you learning? Are you not being so hard on yourself? Are you moving through the space in a meaningful way? Because of your stress and anxious, it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. But how are you moving through it? How are you getting to know yourself? How are you giving yourself that love and compassion that you need? How are you lighting up those centers of your brain that says, yes, yes, you're doing as much as you can. Look at everything you've done. You're making it work. I might not have nailed it this time, but I'm going to nail it next time. I might not have nailed it this time, but I'm learning. And every single time I do it, I get better. And every single time I do it, I get better. How is that different from the self-talk you would normally use? So what is your symbol? It's something you're going to take and look at and use and need and hold close to your heart when you need it the most. How can you feed that compassion and resilience cycle? Here's my big. In therapy, we talk about generalizing concepts, right? So we have all these fancy techniques we use and all these great little wisdoms that we've got and can share with people, but that really doesn't mean much unless it's going to be put into practice outside, right? Because it's work. If you're moving towards a healthy state of mind and healthy mental health, you need to make sure you're doing the work. So how are you going to feed it? What's a goal you're going to set? What's a smart goal you're going to set for yourself? How are you going to help yourself feed this cycle a month from now? Long after you've forgotten this discussion, long after this has moved past your realm of consciousness, what are you going to do in a month from now? What are you going to do a week from now to keep yourself being compassionate and resilient? What's one thing you can do a week from now? What's one thing you can do today? What's one thing you can do in the next 5 minutes? We hold ourselves so high to the impossible standards of the world. If you were your best friend, if you were talking to a best friend about something they were struggling with, how could you say the same thing to yourself? Do you talk to yourself like your best friend? So I want to know, are you going to start a gratitude journal? Are you going to start a self-care calendar mark? Are you going to talk about feelings with somebody? Are you going to use your support system? Are you going to be authentic? Are you going to be rooted in, I am here. I am completely, radically accepting that I'm here in this moment. I live in the present. And if I get out of the present, I'm going to root it back in. I'm going to use my senses and I'm going to root it back in. Do you talk to yourself like your best friend? Wow, that's convicting. Exactly. Because I'll tell you what, if one of my best friends came to me with one of my issues, the way I would talk to them It's going to look a little different than the way I talk to myself about it, right? But what if you merged them? What if you just said one thing differently to yourself? What if you just said, hey, I did enough? This idea, this feeling, this need to compete and to make it bigger and to make it better and to never truly celebrate where you are and what you have accomplished. Is that living life to the fullest? Or are you just living in the future and in a constant state of this? So what I want to do now, there's a form that people can fill out after we do what we're going to do, because we're going to do a little bit of a loving kindness that I do with my clients, that I've done with people in medical settings. And we're going to give some of that love. I'm going to give some of my love to you guys right now because I think everybody could use it. And it's Friday. And it's been a long week. And it's been a long year. And it's been a long decade. And so on and so forth and so on. So let's do a little something together that you can use when you feel like you need a little bit of compassion and resilience. So, if you've never done a meditation before or a guided meditation before, there's no right or wrong way to do this. Just listen to my voice. Listen to the instructions that I'm going to give you. And really just be present with me right now. I invite all of you to become present with me. We're all separated virtually, but we're not. Our minds are all here. Put them right into this moment with me. So I want you to sit in a comfortable position, reasonably upright and relaxed. Fully or partially close your eyes. And take a few deep breaths to settle into your body and into the present moment. I want you to breathe in through your nose and release. So put your hand on your heart for a moment as a reminder to be kind to yourself. Form an image of yourself sitting down. Note your posture on the chair as if you were seeing yourself from the outside. Now bring your attention inside your body. I want you to feel those pulsations and vibrations of your body. Breathe in with me. Breathe in through your nose. Hold, 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 and exhale. Locate your breathing where you can feel it most easily. Feel how your breath moves in your body. And when your attention starts to wander, gently feel the movement of your breath once again. After a few minutes, start to notice physical sensations of stress that you're holding in your body. Perhaps it's in your neck, your jaw, or your belly, or your forehead. And just notice where those physical discomforts live. Also notice if you're holding some difficult emotions. If you're holding on to something like worry about the future, or uneasiness about the past. Understand that every human body bear stress and worry throughout the day. Keep breathing in. Whatever pace you want to breathe, go ahead and breathe in. Now offer yourself goodwill, compassion, because of what you're holding in your body right now. Say the following phrases to yourself, softly and gently. May I be safe. May I be peaceful. May I be kind to myself. May I accept myself as I am. When you notice your mind has wandered, return to the words or the experience of discomfort in your body and your mind. And go slow. Be patient. If you are ever overwhelmed with emotion, you can always return to your breathing. You can also name the emotion, or you can find it in your physical body and soften that area. Then when you're comfortable, return to the phrases. May I be safe. May I be peaceful. May I be kind to myself. May I accept myself as I am. Finally, take a few deep breaths. Just sit and rest quietly in your own body. You can return to these phrases whenever you wish. Let's say it one last time together. May I be safe. May I be peaceful. May I be kind to myself. May I accept myself as I am. And when you're done, you can gently open your eyes. Be with yourself. And just enjoy that sense of love and compassion and understanding. So I want to thank all of you for joining me today. I know this was a lot of work. I know it got kind of intense. I know I can get a little intense. But it's because I believe in this stuff. And I believe the more we are doing that for ourselves, guess what? We're going to radiate it right outside into the world. Thank you all for joining me. If you have a few minutes, please go ahead and take the survey. Give me some feedback. What did you like? What are you going to use? What's going to be helpful for you moving forward? What's one thing you can take for this today and use? What's one thing you're going to change today? I challenge all of you to use one of these methods and keep yourself in that cycle. Thank you all for being here, and I'll see you soon.